Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gangana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Hello, welcome. These teachings are from a work assigned to Adi Sankaracharya, which is called Aparokshanabuthi, or self-realization, or direct perception of the self, of the Atman. And it is an introduction to Vedanta. It speaks about Raja Yoga with a Vedantic vision. So listen very carefully to these teachings, reflect upon them, then meditate upon these teachings so that they can bear fruit in your heart. May you all find freedom. Continuing verse 112. So this is about the posture, the physical posture. So all these teachings, they are revealing two sides of it, form and content. The form is very important, but the content is even more important, because without the content, the form becomes dead. So it brings no fruits. So to the posture, one should know that to be real posture, in which the meditation of Brahman flows spontaneously and unceasingly, and not any other posture that destroys one's happiness. So it is talking about the physical posture, but especially the mental posture, the attitude. So all habits, all behaviors that are entertained brings you closer or more far away from that silent stillness, from Brahman, from God. So that posture, that mental attitude, which enables meditation continuously and spontaneously, is what is behind the sitting posture. So the firmness of the sitting posture, the alignment of it, and the enduring of it, the maintaining that posture until all restlessness gets dissolved with the clear aspiration of God realization or self-realization. This is what brings the highest. Because simply avoiding pain, physical discomfort, is a way to continue to be entrapped by illusion. You are fearing that, you are trying to go around it, but it's not possible. That which is known, that which is well known as the origin of all beings and the support of the whole universe, which is immutable and in which the enlightened are completely merged, that alone is known as Siddhasana. So Siddhasana is a sitting posture in the floor. But that which is well known as the origin of all beings and the support of the whole universe, that identity is the beginning, is the origin of the whole universe. That center of silence, that stillness, that point zero is the origin of the universe. So that firm sitting posture, that Siddhasana, that sitting on the floor, brings you the stillness, the alignment, the closeness to that essential nature of Brahman, by dissolving all agitations, all modifications of the mind. So the form is the sitting posture. The content is what it really means is that, and you are the center of the whole creation. Not you, not the character, but the source of identity. That is the origin of the universe. And which is immutable, and in which the enlightened are completely merged. That alone, that is the real Siddhasana. There's nothing more stable than that. That Brahman, which is the root of all existence, and on which the restraint of the mind is based, is called the restraining root, Mula Bandha, which should always be adopted since it is fit for the Raja Yogis. So the root of all existence, again, of all existence, and the root of Mula Bandha, which is the first chakra, at the first chakra level. So the root of existence, identity as the center of the universe, which is expanding continuously. From the body perception to the universe perception, attention moves forward in an expanding move. So this center, this root center, it is the same in comparison as Brahman, in the sense that it is the origin of everything, the base of everything. Now, this Mula Bandha is a specific bandha of contracting the energy and making it move upwardly. So in this Siddhasana, for example, the heel should press the perineum, and Mula Bandha should be adopted, which is a contraction at the perineum. This ejects the energy, pushes it upwards. But you need to be very careful with this, because in a normal circumstance, as practice is reaching this level, the body is pure, energy is subtle. If the energy is not subtle, you will be pushing dense energy into the most subtle centers. And this can bring a lot of problems. Health problems, mental disorders, a lot of things. So I don't really advise this. Because one thing is for certain, when the energy is pure, when your motivation is pure, when your practices are aligned, energy will move upwards on its own. So, and if you still want to do Mula Bandha, you need to pay attention to something. There are clear signs that indicate that energy is not suitable for that. So if you start doing Mula Bandha and you start feeling a little bit more with time, you start feeling a little bit more agitated, more proud, more aggressive, more self-centered. This means more agitated. This means that it is not a good idea. So it is a good practice to be done when energy is very, very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. So a lot of spiritual practice, a lot of meditation, very restricted diet, then it can be practiced. But there's no need for it also. It's good because it pushes energy upwards. But understand that when everything is in the right place, energy moves up by itself. So some argue that these verses, they mean that there is no point in the sitting posture, it's not important, and you shouldn't care about it. But it's not true. One should not be restrained by the physical posture only. That is the structure, that is the form, but you also need to have the content. The content is the aspiration, and the vision of the destination of the final goal should always be present, or else the practice dies. Form continues, but there's no content. Absorption in that uniform Brahman should be known as the equipoise of the limbs, Deha Samya. Otherwise, mere straightening of the body, like that of a dried up tree, is no equipoise. So again, straightening of the body is the basis, because that stillness helps to dissolve the modifications of the mind, purges restlessness, purges all, dissolves all constrictions in your energy. So it is very important. But understanding that it is always for the absorption in Brahman or in God. Because if the attention is just on the posture, just for remain still, that leads nowhere. So always the form and the content. But without the steady form, there is no content whatsoever. So equipoise of the mind. Let me make just here an observation. Equipoise of the limbs will equal equipoise of the mind if things go in the right direction. So it is not just about conquering steadiness of the mind, of the body. It is of the mind also. Converting the ordinary vision into one of knowledge, one should view the world as Brahman itself. This is the noblest vision, and not that which is directed to the tip of the nose. So here, the tip of the nose, this is all usually is mistaken, because in the Sanskrit there is a confusion in interpretation that is pointed out by many, and that makes perfect sense, because and not that which is directed to the tip of the nose, not the tip of the nose, but the origin of the nose, where the nose begins, the origin of the nose. So converting the ordinary vision into one of knowledge, one should view the world as Brahman itself. So this is what is behind this concentrating at the origin of the nose. It's to convert ordinary vision into the world as Brahman itself. And this has another meaning, which is the seat of superconsciousness, where duality merges into oneness. So this center is very important for that. And this is what is behind it. Not the tip of the nose, in the case the origin of the nose. It's not about the nose itself. This is the noble vision. Or one should direct one's vision to that alone where all distinction of seer, sight, and seen ceases, and not the origin of the nose. Again, this center, this is the seat of superconsciousness. It is what's called the spiritual eye. So here, when concentration is made here, eventually, a five-pointed star will start to be seen. This is the doorway to superconsciousness. So when you're focusing here, it's not about the origin of the nose, but it's the doorway to superconsciousness. Prior to that, all other things are needed, because for energy to move, to rise, so that you can enter superconsciousness, you must have already done all these prior steps. Energy must be very clean, very pure, detachment, renunciation, all these things must be in place. For it to be a steady experience, continuous one, and dissolution itself. Because just a mere experience, that doesn't solve. So concentration here is not about concentrating on the tip of the nose, on the origin of the nose. This is the seat, the doorway to superconsciousness. So, and here it's clearly stated, that alone, we should direct one's vision to that alone. So directing the eyes here, eyes closed, but directing it here, putting the energy, the pranas flowing here. There's pranic beings coming out from the eyes that enable vision. They should be directed to this center. And as you're meditating, you're pulling your downward energy, pulling it up and concentrating it here. And this is where the seer's sight and the seen ceases. Because as you start seeing this 5-pointed star and you enter it, this is the doorway to superconsciousness, the Brahman, and sight, seeing, and seer disappears. The restraint of all modifications of the mind by regarding all mental states, like the chitta, as Brahman alone, is called pranayama. So the restraint of all modifications of the mind by regarding all mental states, like the chitta, as Brahman alone. So by this force, the modifications of the mind dissolve, disappear, only Brahman remains. But this is the end goal, because pranayama, that is the real pranayama. But the pranayama dissolves all these modifications of the mind and helps you to reach that state. So the breathing exercise enables to ascend to the clear vision that everything is just Brahman alone. All mental states are just Brahman alone. So, and this is where Kriya Yoga, for example, enters. So the negation of the phenomenal world is known as rechaka, breathing out. There's no world as you're breathing out. The thought, I am verily Brahman, is what is called puraka, breathing in. And the steadiness of that thought, I am verily Brahman, thereafter is called kumbhaka, restraint of the breath. This is the real course of pranayama for the enlightened one, whereas the ignorant only torture the nose. So, as you are making the pranayamas, the meaning, this is the content being added to the form, to the practice. And the meaning is this: breathing out, the world doesn't exist. Breathing in, I am verily Brahman. And retaining that breath is retaining that thought, I am verily Brahman. So in this way, or doing this with a mantra together. But the mantra is there, needs your constant focus and awareness of these realities. Or else it just becomes a breathing exercise that can at most lead you to breathlessness, peace, but not realization. Whereas the ignorant only torture the nose. This is a means of saying that if there's no content in your spiritual practice, you're just doing exercise, that you're just torturing the nose, for example, and not getting anything else from it. So the content should always be present. The absorption of the mind in the Supreme Consciousness by realizing Atman in all objects is known as pratyahara, withdrawal of the mind, which should be practiced by the seekers after liberation. So the absorption of the mind in the Supreme Consciousness by realizing Atman in all objects is known as pratyahara, because, well, mind is absorbed, so of course if it's absorbed, it has retreat from its objects. But removing the mind from its objects, from the sense objects, is very important to reach this absorption. Without it, it doesn't come. But it's not about just retrieving the mind from its objects. There is a point for that. Or else, there's no Brahman nor fullness, there's just emptiness, just void. The steadiness of the mind through the realization of Brahman, wherever the mind goes, is known as the supreme dharana, concentration. But before that, of course, the practice of concentration is very important. Bringing the mind to steadiness, to fix on one single thought. Remaining independent of everything as a result of the unassailable thought, I am verily Brahman, is well known by the word dhyan, meditation, and is producive of supreme bliss. I think it's clear. The complete forgetfulness of all thought by making it first changeless and then identifying it with Brahman is called samadhi, known also as knowledge. So the complete forgetfulness, this means absorption. There's no samadhi without absorption. Either it is full absorption or unending absorption, or it is still fluctuating and it needs to be made steady. So the complete forgetfulness means absorption of all thought by first making it changeless and then identifying with Brahman. So first steady of the thought, being steady on the thought, or of mantras. For example, you're making the mantra steady, and at the same time with the mantra, you're identifying it with Brahman or God, depending on the mantra. The end result is the same. Either you are using the mantra of God, for example, Namo Narayanaya, or I am Brahman, keeping that thought steady, no other thoughts involved, and then identifying it with Brahma. So with the mantra, you do both simultaneously. The aspirant should carefully practice this meditation that reveals his natural bliss until, being under his full control, it arises spontaneously and in an instant when called into action. So the aspirant should carefully practice this meditation that reveals his natural state until it becomes natural, under his full control, that arises spontaneously when he calls it, when called into action. But it is made to be continuous, 24/7. Meditation eventually will continue despite the physical posture, despite whatever is there. But until then, till that moment, it should be practiced like explained accordingly. Okay.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.